Paul Glazby, thank you for joining us on Save The Rave.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's really good to see you. And we've got so many excited listeners that are tuned in today. So I think that besides just talking about what you've been up to now, we want to get a bit of background on your DJ career. And I believe you have an announcement that you'd like to make as well on the show today. That's going to be the first time that we are going to be the first people to hear about it.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, fantastic.
My South African friends.
Great. Okay, so let's get into it. So, Paul, how did you first get into DJing? And who were your inspirations as a DJ? So what made you think, I want to become a DJ?
I can tell you exactly what it was. And I actually sent him a message on Facebook just a few days ago about this. Right? Yeah. So back in, would have been 1997, I started going out. I used to box. And when I stopped boxing, within a few weeks, I started clubbing. And then that was it. And I started hanging around with these guys that I used to go to this club every week, and we started going back to these after parties. And I used to sit there, and it seemed like everybody could DJ, and I couldn't. And I'm not one of these people that I don't like to practice. You know, I don't want to be shit at something. So, sorry, can we swear on this or not?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I don't like to be shit at something in front of people. So but we used to listen to Trade 4. Pete Wardman, Trade 4, that and Tony DeVee live in Tel Aviv, those two mixes. And just a few days, 2 weeks ago, I don't really use Facebook anymore. And I went on, and Pete Wardman had sent me a friend request. And I responded to it and sent him a message saying, I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for that mix. Because that was the one that got me into it. And I used to listen to that over. And these last couple of weeks, I've been listening to it again. I've just had it on repeat. It's like on YouTube Music. I've just been pounding it. And I remember back then, I couldn't tell where one track started and another one finished. When I listen to it now, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty obvious. But I just didn't know like it. So I saved up £500. I don't know if you guys understand what that is, but £500. And I got a £500 bank loan, and I bought some Technics and a mixer and practiced in secret. And then one day at an after party, I just said, oh, can I have a go? And I got up and I was like, I could do it. And everyone was like, what the fuck is this? It all just went from there. But yeah, I said to my girls, we were driving them to school and we were listening to Trade 4. And I said, you wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for this album, because my life would have taken a completely different track, and I would never have met your mum. And, you know, like all these, I met the girl's mum in a club at Storm in the UK. Yeah. Like I wouldn't have met her if I'd not been a DJ. I wouldn't have been a DJ if it wasn't for that mix. Yeah. And Pete Warden was like, I can't believe you're even listening to it, let alone it changed your life. I'm like, trust me.
That's fantastic. That's a great story. So you're one of the few DJs that's known as a proper hard house DJ. And I mean, you talk about listening to the Trade 4 album now recently, and I feel like even with us, we've had this new refound energy for hard house. We've been playing more and more proper hard house on the show lately, especially Brent. Unfortunately, he's not here today. He would have loved to say hello to you. But it's almost like the energy of that music is coming back. I'm starting to listen more to hard sounds. So what was it about hard house that you loved so much? Was it just that album, or is it like what about the sound is it that you like so much?
I think because, you know, growing up from being 12 years old, I just became this massive Metallica fan, and I still am now. You know, like that is my first love, is Metallica or Pantera, Machine Head. So that was my influence. And then when I latched onto this music that was like a sort of similar, not really even the same BPM, but it had that same energy. You know, my friend Ben. Do you remember Ben that came, the black guy that I brought to South Africa?
Yeah. Nice guy, wonderful guy.
Yeah, great guy. But he was glad he got out alive. I'm only joking. But he used to say about my mixing, he said it's the power of it. It's not how fast it is or how hard it is. It's the power of it. Because I used to, you know, the way I used to mix and layer, or still do, I guess, layer things together. And it just seemed like when I started at Insomniacs, a lot of the DJs would, you know, mix into like dead beats, you know, just mix the very beginning of a track into the very end, and it didn't have that energy. And that, I think it's the energy and the power that I latch onto, which when I listen to Trade 4 or, you know, those mixers that were mixed, you know, Pete Wardman and Tony DeVee and E&M, and even Steve Thomas, like even though he plays softer, but it's got that energy, but just the way. And I think that was the transfer from the metal that I'd been listening to. It just linked together. So when, you know, people found out that I was a Metallica fan after knowing me as a DJ for 2 or 3 years, people were like, oh yeah, I get it. You know, like it made sense to people. So, and I used to speak to Mark Foster that used to run Tidy Management. You remember Mark?
Yes, yeah.
And he used to say, God, is it not, you know, listening to that stuff all the time, does it not just like wear you out? And I was like, if I listen to the stuff that you like, all that laid back, you know, stuff, I said, that agitates me. Like this stuff. I actually went to a health, you know, I used to be a personal trainer. I went to a health and fitness seminar, and this guy was talking about how they'd studied these cells and they'd played heavy metal music and it had made the cells react in a negative way. Yeah. And they were making this blanket statement that heavy metal music was bad for human cells. And I said, I put my hand up and all these like hundreds of people are looking at me like, what's this guy on about? And I said, I love heavy metal. Like if you play rap music to me, I can feel myself getting agitated. And this guy's like, oh, I never actually thought of that. You know, that it might just be that the cells that whoever's cells these were may have not liked that type of music and reacted in a negative way. So it's all about the feeling. I think the feeling I get from heavy metal, I get from the hard.
That makes complete sense. I mean, if I go to the gym, I don't want to train to. I very often complain to the trainers there about the music because it's radio music. You know, it's hip hop and it's rap and it doesn't inspire me. And as soon as I put my headphones on and I listen to hard house tunes, then I'm inspired and energized. So it's like what you say, it depends on the person. I agree with you there. Yeah. So okay, that's interesting to know. And then tell us about getting signed to Tidy. I mean, if it wasn't for Tidy, we wouldn't have come across you. I think you were the second act that we brought down to South Africa for the Tidy monthlies, which was at Studio 47. The very first guys we got down was Jez and Charlie. That was with, you mentioned Mark Foster. They all came down for the first time.
Yeah, and then Lee Haslam, I think the month after, and then I think I was the third.
Oh, your memory might be better than mine. I don't know. So it was, but I do remember that I think yours was the biggest crowd that we'd had. So it's possible that it
got bigger.
So it's possible that it was the third one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, that was a crazy night. It's like you said, you did a 3-hour set on the nights, and it was banging the whole way. It was completely mad.
I'll tell you what. To this day, I mean, I don't even know how many gigs I've done, but that would be top 3 for me. Like when people say best gigs you've ever played, and I just there's a Dance Valley gig. There was a gig in Adelaide that I did, and Cape Town. Like and I've said that for years.
Lee Haslam said the same thing. He said his top 3 gigs was Studio 47 was in his top 3. Yeah. So we obviously did something right for a while.
But interesting story. I almost didn't get signed to Tidy.
Yeah. What happened there?
So basically, I was being. Oh, this is going to be just audio, so people aren't going to see the inverted commas. But I was being managed by this guy in Sheffield, and he wasn't doing a particularly great job. And he was also managing Lee Haslam, but he knew that he was only managing Lee until Tidy Management got set up. And then when Tidy Management got set up, Lee Haslam obviously was there, Jez and Charlie were there, Mark Gray was there. And around that time, I was playing at Insomniacs, and Tidy were doing the Insomniacs album with Insomniacs. There's like a joint thing, but then they had a bit of a falling out for some reason. They couldn't agree on the terms. And part of the deal was that I was going to do the second disc because I was the Insomniacs resident. So anyway, Andy Pickles called me into the office and he said, look, we're not doing the album with Insomniacs anymore. And I thought he was going to tell me, you're not doing it either. But in fairness, and I always respected Andy for this because I wasn't really anybody at that stage. He could have easily just binned me off. But he said, we still want to give you the opportunity to do it if you want. We're just going to call it Insomnia. And I was like, okay, great. So we did that and we were doing the album. And then I still didn't get asked for Tidy Management. I'm like, what is going off here? Like I'm doing an album for them. Like, surely I'm at the caliber of these other guys. Like that's how I felt. And so I've knocked on his door, Andy Pickles, and I said, I just want to ask, why have I not been asked to join Tidy Management? And he said, oh, we wanted to. He said, but Lee spoke to the guy that was managing him, and he said that you got an exclusive contract for the next 2 years. And I'm like, what? So I said, that's not right at all. So anyway, the next day I was signed to Tidy Management. I got rid of this guy. And then the rest is history. But if it just goes to, if I had not knocked on his door and,
It would have never.
said, it would never have happened. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, and then so besides Tidy, you also had your own label, Vicious Circle. How did that get started? And what was your
So
motivation?
basically, well, I wrote Kick It.
Yeah.
And the B-side, Rough and Tough. And I sent the tracks to Tidy Tracks, Nucleus, to everybody, like even like Billy Bunter's label, like everybody. And they were like, yeah, not really our sound. And I just said to my mate, you remember Scott? Remember Scott Cooper that used to work on
Not
Vicious
so,
Circle?
no.
He was the manager at Vicious Circle for a while.
Okay.
And I said, why don't we just start his own label? Like, why do we need these guys to put the music out? If it's not their sound, then let's just make it our sound. So that's what we did. Set up a label in December 2000. So my big break came in January 2000, which at the end of December 99, I was ready for hanging up my headphones. I thought this is just not going to work out. I'd done a couple of gigs outside Sheffield, but nothing was really coming of it. So I was going to pack it in. And then over Christmas, I got a call from Tom at Insomniacs, and he said, look, I'm now in full control of Insomniacs. Those other promoters that were involved that didn't want you playing because they wanted a more trance sound. He said, I've got rid of them. It's just me. I want to get you in. So at the end of January, I did my first set. And then that same year, by the October, I did my first international gig, which was in Canada. And then in December, I launched Vicious Circle. So it's 20 years old this December.
Wow. That's great. Yeah, because you came to Cape Town, I think it was probably March, April, May, somewhere around there in 2001.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's because we just opened the club. So, wow. So, I mean, 20 years of Vicious Circle, and they're still going.
That's right, yeah.
Are you still involved?
Well, this is the announcement. So basically, I've not been involved, and it's 8 years. 2012 was the last time I did a track. But because it's the 20th anniversary, and Ben was saying that everyone that's contributed, not everybody, but all the big names that have contributed to Vicious Circle over the last 20 years, he's got people doing tracks, and he said it's just not going to be the same if you're not involved. So I'm actually dusting off the old studio boots and doing a track in the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks. So by December, by Christmas, there'll be a new Glazby track. I've had a few ideas running around my head, but just had no outlet for it. But I thought, Ben does such a good job, and he's so devoted. I remember when Ben was, like just a bedroom DJ, and he used to come and he used to work for Vicious Circle, packing all the records and, like working alongside me and Scott, driving me to gigs sometimes. And then, like he is now basically like Hard House wouldn't even exist anymore if it wasn't for Ben Stevens. He's so pivotal to everything. Now, I don't think people give him the recognition that he deserves. So when he said to me, can you do it? I'm like, yeah, of course I can.
No,
so new Glazby by the end of the year.
Okay, great. So we're going to look forward to that. Yeah, my brother's a big fan of Ben Stevens because obviously, like you say, he's one of the only guys that are really still pushing that hard house sound.
Mm.
And then, so as a DJ, you've got to tour the world a lot. And where were your favorite countries or cities to DJ? So out of your whole career, where were your favorite countries or cities to play?
Well, I mean, obviously Cape Town, the Adelaide. So my biggest concentration of fans in the world is Adelaide. So like because the thing is in Australia, like the cities are so far apart. If you play in Adelaide, pretty much 95%, maybe more, are people from Adelaide. Like if I play in Sheffield, where I'm from, then people will come from Leeds, Birmingham, maybe even London. Like the people that are there aren't all from Sheffield. But if you play in Adelaide, most of the people from Adelaide. If you play in Melbourne, most of the people from Melbourne.
Yeah.
So I can do a gig in Adelaide, probably even now, and pull hundreds, maybe even 1,000 people just from that one city. Like it's always been, for the last almost 20 years, it's been the biggest stronghold of Glazby fans in the world. And people, when I first went, the first gig I ever did there was a Thursday night.
Yeah.
And we thought it had just been thrown onto the tour just to make up the numbers. It was me and remember Ingo Starr?
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Ingo, we flew down. It was just us. We were on a Gatecrasher tour. Tidy Tracks did we were doing the sort of second room in the Gatecrasher was the main room, and then we did the second room. But then on the Thursday, it was just a Tidy event. So it was only me and Ingo. We went down and we were like, oh, this is going to be shit. Thursday night. And everyone said Adelaide's like a retirement village. So we were like, Thursday night in a retirement home, like, what's this going to be like? and just amazing.
That's fantastic. That's a name I haven't heard in a while, Ingo. So is he also in Australia?
No. He just came across. This is back in that was 2001. So that would have been probably June, July. I played in Studio 47 for the first time in the March, and then 2 or 3 months later, because I remember that whole year. And, you know, sometimes I get back from a gig, I might have been home for like a few days and then done gigs in the UK on the weekend and then got on another flight and flown somewhere else. And I was complaining about having all this travel. And my ex-wife, her dad said, you do realise you've been more places in the world this year than I have in my life. He said, don't complain, just enjoy it. And I always remembered that, like I thought, yeah, I really should.
That's fantastic. Okay, so last question. If you could go back in time and do one gig over again, which one would it be?
Studio 47, March 2001. And I'm not just saying that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah. That's great.
And then the after party with Brenton.
Sorry? With?
And then the after party with Brenton.
With Brent. Yeah, it was always a long-standing joke with all the guys at Tidy, with who could come to Cape Town and out-party Brent.
That's right.
So I think you got the closest, but you didn't. To this day, he still walked away the winner.
Yeah, I think he probably did. Well, but do you remember you left? So there was that green room that you had, like upstairs.
Yeah.
And I was up there, and you had those massive posters. You remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd been partying with Brent, so we all know what state I was in. Someone gave me a marker pen and said, "Can you sign some posters?" So I think whoever gave me, it might have even been you that gave me the marker pen. You maybe wanted 2 or 3 posters to give away. And one by one, people left the room, and I ended up sat there on my own. And then someone walked back in, and I'd signed like 150 posters. They were all on the floor.
That's great. Okay, Paul, so listen, we need to do this again. And I think that next year, early next year, when this whole COVID situation, all the travel bans have been lifted, we'll definitely make a plan. You and I have spoken about it, about what would work for you. So I think we'll make it happen. Yeah. So let's keep in contact. And I think the listeners will go nuts when they hear that you're going to be releasing a new tune towards the end of the year. And definitely organize something for you to come back to Cape Town early next year.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us on the show. It's been a real pleasure. And we'll chat to you again soon.
Nice one. Take care.
Yeah. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, thanks, Paul. That was fantastic. That was a good interview. Some good stories there.
Yeah, it's nice to reminisce. Yeah, but if I've just thought if we did it around, I mean, I don't know what the restrictions are going to be like, but if we could do it around sort of March, April next year, that'd be the